Welcome to an e-isuite video tip on rostering and unrostering resources in e-isuite. There are a couple of things you need to remember about rostering resources. First, any resource can be rostered to any other resource. Second, you can roster resources 4 levels deep. A typical hierarchy level of an engine strike team would be as shown on the slide. Level 1 is the engine strike team itself, and it is the parent record for the whole strike team. Level 2 is the 5 engines that make up the major components of the strike team. Level 3 is the engine crew members for each engine, and Level 4 is the pickup truck assigned to a crew member. At this point, we've logged into a database and we've selected the Alamo incident. We're going to be focused on resource E8. E8 is an engine strike team, and as you can see when I expand the grid, it's got 5 engines, but for some reason, the strike team engine leader, John James, got checked into the system as a single resource and did not get properly rostered with the engine strike team. We're going to correct that by rostering John James to the engine strike team. In order to do that, we select the entire engine strike team resource, and then we click on the roster resources button down here in the lower right. The system will bring up a roster resources window showing the resources that are already rostered and subordinate to E8, but as we noted, they don't include the engine strike team leader. We're going to fix that. Note that we don't have to roster him as a new resource because he's already checked into the database, so we can roster him as an existing incident resource. So we'll just click on Roster Existing Incident Resource button. And then we can use the filter and request number and just type the letter E, and he pops up as the first resource in that grid, E8.7. We select that record and save it, and you can see that John James is now rostered under E8. When we close this, you'll notice that he is no longer showing in the left-hand grid as a single resource, and in fact is rostered under E8 like he should be. We've got one last step. We need to select the John James resource and make sure he's shown as the primary leader of that strike team. Right now he's not, so we'll select leader type primary, save that record, and now he is the primary leader for the engine strike team. That completes rostering an existing resource. The next thing we're going to do is look at how to roster a resource from scratch when they haven't checked in yet. We'll add the crew member to engine 8.5, which only has 4 crew members so far. You'll notice there's no subordinate E8.5.5. That's the resource we're going to add. In order to roster a resource to engine 8.5, we have to select it in the left-hand grid and then click on Roster Resources. When the roster resource window comes up, it's already got roster new resource selected, which is what we want to do. So we just go ahead and start entering data. The request number is going to be E8.5.5. It's a person, so we check that box, not a leader. Last name is Doe, first name is John. The item code is a firefighter 1 FFT1. The fields on the right of the top grid are filled in from a parent resource, so we'll jump down to Demob City, Sonoma, California, agency-owned vehicle. First work day is going to be 11/17/2017. The assignment's going to be 14 days, and then we save that resource. And now if you look over here in the left-hand grid, we have a resource E8.5.5 subordinate to engine E8.5 named John Doe. And if we close the roster resource window and go back to the main grid and expand that, you'll notice that there we also have a new subordinate resource E8.5.5. And that completes rostering a resource that's not been entered into the system ahead of time. Next, we will roster a chase truck to a crew member, John Doe. In order to do that, we have to select John Doe as the parent resource from the left-hand grid. So we've got to go over here to the left-hand grid, click on John Doe, and make sure John Doe's information populates in the right-hand side over here. Next, we click on Roster Resources, and when the Roster Resource window comes up, you'll notice, of course, that nothing is currently subordinate to John Doe. And so we're going to go ahead and roster that chase truck now. So again, we're rostering a new resource. Request number now is going to be E8.5.5.1. It's not a person. The resource name is Chase Truck 8551. The item code is pickup, and it fills out all the rest of the fields that need to be filled out from the parent record. So at this point, we're ready to go ahead and save this resource. And now if you look over here in the left-hand grid, John Doe has a subordinate resource, a chase truck E8.5.5.1. And if we close the roster resource window and take a look at the subordinate for E8.5.5. There it is, E8.5.5.1, chase truck 8551. Next, we will go over how to unroster a resource. We have been notified that crew member John Doe on engine 8.5 has to fly home early and will be leaving the chase truck 8551 with another crew member. Therefore, we have to unroster the chase truck 8551 from John Doe so it can be rostered to another person. To unroster a resource, you must first select the parent resource of the resource you wish to unroster. Therefore, we will select E8.5.5 John Doe in the left-hand grid. Once John Doe is selected, we click on the Roster Resources button. After the Roster Resources window appears, we click on E8.5.5.1 to select the resource that is to be unrostered. Note that the Roster button on the bottom right has changed to an Unroster button. We click on that button to unroster the resource. Note that in the Roster Resources window in the upper left, the chase truck no longer appears under John Doe. When we close the Roster Resources window, and if we click on Refresh Grid Data, you'll note that E8.5.5.1, the chase truck, is no longer rostered to E8.5.5, but is rather a single resource that can be re-rostered to any of the other crew members that we wish to re-roster it to. And that completes the roster and unroster resources video tips.